Maybe you wasted your 20s. Maybe not all of them. But maybe just enough that the party is under-leveled, the bag is empty, and nobody knows why we still have cut. In essence, you wasted enough time that it hurts to think about. Enough nights scrolling, enough years drifting, enough "I'll start next week" arcs to fill an entire anime filler season. You look around and it feels like everyone else got the guidebook. Some people have careers, some people have relationships, some have houses. Most people think wasting your 20s looks obvious, like partying every weekend, burning all your money, and ignoring your health. But the more common version can almost be invisible. This video is not here to shame you, the internet already has enough guys yelling at you from rented Lamborghinis. This is more like opening your old Pokemon save file, looking at your team and going, okay, this is bad, but we can still improve this. So let's go ahead and fix the run. And step 1 is we need to load in the save file. And what I mean by that is we need to start your personal audit of your life without making it shame-based. The first thing you need to do is look at what actually went wrong. Not like, I'm such an idiot, my life is over, I should just move into a cave and die. That's not the kind of stuff I'm talking about here. You do that in a way like you'd also look at an old save file. Where did the run start going sideways? Did you stop training your body? Did you avoid your career? Did you isolate? Did you spend 5 years consuming without actually doing anything? Did you use gaming, scrolling, food, adult content, alcohol, dating comfort, or endless planning to avoid real-world discomfort? And I especially want to emphasize something with the last point, because there is a difference between having fun and hiding away. Having fun is playing Pokemon for an hour. Hiding is playing Pokemon for 6 hours, while your laundry evolves into a new regional variant. And I say this with love, because I have absolutely done versions of this. Not always with games, but sometimes it could be with YouTube, it could be with overthinking, planning, and sometimes with trying to find the perfect next step instead of taking the first uncomfortable action. The goal here is not to hate yourself for the actions you haven't taken or the time you've wasted. The goal is just to recognize patterns, because once you can actually see these patterns, you can start to take the appropriate actions. And what you'll probably come to find is that a lot of the time, you already know where the run went wrong, and you know what you should actually change. But most people, they don't even want to take this first step, because looking at it, it means taking responsibility for your former actions, for your younger self. So the next question is, what are you going to do now? I've had multiple phases where my life looked good on the outside, but internally I knew something was off. I had a master's degree in chemistry, a path that people expected me to take, and I'd done a lot of responsible things. I'd saved up some money, I was healthy, I was going to the gym quite often, I had friends. I didn't have a girlfriend at the time, but when I was in my mid-20s, people mostly looked at the fact that I had a good career going for me, seemingly. But there was still a lot of parts of me that really mattered to me that felt underdeveloped, such as my confidence, my ability to date, my creative life, and just my general sense of direction. And the uncomfortable lesson I learned back then was that you can still be ahead on paper and still feel behind in your soul. That sounds over-dramatized when I say it out loud, but it's really true. You can have the degree, you can have the job, the savings, the normal life, and still feel like some important part of you has been sitting in the PC box since 2014. And that's where a lot of people get confused, because they think feeling behind means that they failed. But sometimes feeling behind is actually a good thing, because that means part of you is finally waking up and noticing that you have to take action to actually change your life. The part of you that's realizing this is not the life I actually wanted to build. When did I let go of those dreams and that ambition I had? To make this really tangible for you, I've prepared 7 questions you can ask yourself during this practical audit to really figure out what you should do from here. Question number 1 is, where did I stop progressing? We as humans, we need progress. We need to feel like we're moving somewhere. If nothing in your life is leveling up, don't be shocked when everything else feels stale. Your brain is not designed just to wake up, check your phone, work, scroll, eat, scroll, sleep, and repeat, and then somehow feel like you're the main character. That's definitely not a life arc I would like to live. So the first real question is, where did I stop progressing? Is it in your body, your money, your confidence? Is it your friendships, your skills, your dating life, or your creativity? Pick the area where life feels most stale, and you feel pain here when you really consider it. That's probably where your character stopped gaining XP. And I mentioned a lot of things here. The point is not to fix everything instantly. That won't get you anywhere. And that's how people get really overwhelmed and burn out. So just start with the area where you feel the most honest pain. Not the area that sounds impressive to others. The area that keeps bothering you when you sit in silence. Because that's usually where your truth is at this season of your life. Question number 2 is, what am I using to avoid discomfort? Some of the most common things here are gaming, scrolling, food, and just generally things that make you comfortable. For me, I've actually noticed I have a pattern of going in and looking for new motorcycles to buy, even though I'm not planning on switching out my motorcycle anytime soon. but I will check this multiple times a day if I don't notice the pattern and if I'm trying to avoid discomfort. And you really have to be brutally honest with yourself, because it's probably something you think you really enjoy, but it's probably just more so because you want to hide from the thing you don't want to do. Just think about it, when every uncomfortable thing gets avoided with a snack, a screen, or a mysterious 90-minute YouTube rabbit hole about a historical event you'll never mention to another human being, you'll start to lose a lot of time here from the things that really matter to you. And look, I'm not saying to never get distracted again, to never watch any YouTube videos, do any of that kind of stuff. I still do that. I just moderate it heavily and make sure that I do the difficult thing first, so it's not coming from a place of avoidance. At some point you have to ask yourself, am I actively choosing to watch this video, or am I escaping into this? In Pokemon terms, are you actually taking on every trainer battle that the game gives to you, or are you trying to run in circles around those trainers to avoid them, knowing that your Pokemon will level up less when you do this? Because if you keep running from every trainer, don't be surprised when the next gym leader turns your team into emotional soup. Now, for the third question. What habit is quietly stealing my future? Usually, you already know. This habit might be scrolling, it might be adult content, might be spending emotionally, staying up late, avoiding people, constantly planning about your future instead of actually doing anything in the present, and the list is really long. But you probably have some kind of idea of what your current worst habit is. That's the villain you need to tackle, the leader of Team Aqua. And this is exactly why you can waste so much time in your 20s. Because the consequences usually do not arrive immediately. You can sleep badly and still function. You can also eat badly and still look okay. You can avoid the gym and still survive, waste money and still pay rent, and you can scroll for 4 hours a night and still tell yourself, I'm fine, I'm just decompressing. And yeah, sure, it's fine for a night, but that one night typically tends to turn into a pattern, which then becomes part of your identity, and that identity becomes your entire life. That's delayed returns, and the scary thing is that it's not that this one bad habit destroys you, it just turns into this loop that drags other things down. When you unintentionally choose to go for this bad habit of yours instead of actually working on your dream, later down the line that's really gonna hurt when you spend a bunch of time and you're not where you want to be. Now my next question number 4, is what basic stat am I neglecting? And this question is really complementary to the first question we talked about. So let's have a look at it like this. Your HP stat is your sleep and health. Your attack stat is your ability to take action. Your defense stat is your money. Your special attack is your creativity and your skill. And your special defense is your current stability, mentally and financially. And your speed stat is your energy and fitness. If just one of these stats is terrible, you'll definitely feel something's lacking in your life. It's gonna get a lot harder. And the fix is typically quite simple, right? If you're living like you're Shedinja right now with 1 HP, you know that the fix is usually quite boring. It's to sleep better and really focus 100% on your sleep to improve this part of your life. It's not glamorous, and nobody really wants to hear that the secret to changing your life is going to bed at 9 PM and being in bed for 9 hours. But the basics are not beneath you. They're probably the exact thing you keep skipping while looking for some advanced strategy. You can watch 100 videos on YouTube about this kind of stuff, but that doesn't matter if you don't take the appropriate action. Fix the obvious stuff first. It doesn't have to be perfect. You need to stop making life harder than it already is. Because for most people, life is already running on hard mode. So don't add poison damage by sleeping 5 hours and eating like a divorced pirate. Question number 5 is, what problem do I already know I'm avoiding? And this is also one of those questions you probably have a good sense of already. Is it some kind of difficult conversation you need to have with your boss? Is it some kind of habit you need to cut? Is it the application you need to send, the gym you need to join, or the relationship you need to fix? You gotta admit to yourself that this is a real issue and I need to fix this. A lot of people freeze here because typically it's a really uncomfortable action that you need to take. Let's say that you're in a relationship you're not happy with. You will have to tell your partner that we need to do something serious about this, or this has to stop. That's something that people will sometimes put off for years. So really sit down and think about, what problem do I already know that I'm avoiding? Now for question number 6, what would make me respect myself again? Now we're moving from the productivity side of things into your identity. This is something that I want you to think about, because it's something that's really important internally for you to respect yourself. And it's actually the opposite of impressing people by, for example, buying things you can't really afford, posting all the time like your life is a movie, and pretending that everything's actually great when it's not. Respecting yourself can look like doing what you said you would do, showing up even though nobody's noticing it, and keeping your promises to yourself. The answer is different for different people. I personally respect myself a lot when I stick to what I say I will do. And I do good things for my body and my soul and my mind and everything. If I just live my life in alignment with who I want to be in a couple of years, doing the habits that will get me to that person and doing the actions that will get me to that person. That brings in a lot of self-respect for myself, even if other people don't understand why I'm doing these things. So in essence, it doesn't have to be this big thing. It just has to be real for you and important to you. Now for question 7, what can I repeat for 30 days? I'm a big fan of trackers because they add some kind of little accountability that's really easy to set up, especially if you hang it on your wall or have it somewhere nearby, like in your journal, which I currently have. What can you repeat for 30 days? You can pick a single habit, you can pick a couple habits. The most important thing is you don't want to do this big reset where you have to make the tracker, this crazy tracker where you have to work 6 hours a day, you have to exercise twice a day, stuff like that. Just make it really simple. It could be something like, for 30 days, I will wake up before 8 AM. Done. It will also be a couple of habits like, I will wake up before 8 AM, I'll go outside every day, and I will do 20 push-ups a day. Done. Something that simple. If health is an issue at this current point in time, going back to the Shedinja example from earlier, this will change your life. This will massively change your life, because you start collecting proof that you can actually change. You can take steps forward, like collecting gym badges. And that's how you build momentum, and then it's much easier when the momentum is actually going to keep changing your life and do good things for yourself. And after you've done this audit for yourself, we move into step 2, which is you need to delete the bad moveset. Because once you actually know what went wrong, you can replace the bad moveset with a good one. I love the fact that you can only have 4 moves in Pokemon, because if you reflect this onto real life, at some point something has to go. You can't stay up too late, avoid the gym, eat like your body has a warranty, and keep self-isolating, and also be confident, be rich, have a better body, and have a meaningful life. You don't have 8 move slots, you have to actually replace stuff to make this whole process possible. And look, it doesn't mean that you cannot have fun and you cannot play games anymore. It just means replacing self-destruct with something like Rock Blast that isn't a perfect move, but it actually moves you forward instead of destroying yourself. Then we get into step 3, which is you need to fix the basics. Taking us back to question 4 in the audit, you have some basic stats and you want to get yourself to a decent baseline. You probably don't want a Snorlax with really low speed or even a Deoxys attack with super low defense, because you get really vulnerable and it's really easy to take you down. If I made a video called Sleep, Exercise, Eat Better, Talk to People, and Clean Your Room, you absolute disaster, nobody would click that. Actually, maybe some people would click that, but the point stands. Most people, they want the cheat code, the secret system. But the majority of people, like 99% of people, they don't need the advanced stuff. They need all the foundations first, so you at least get to cast form level that has a base 70 and everything. And when you have the basics in order, you can move to step 4, which is you need to pick a quest. This is something that's both gonna add fun in your life and purpose into your life. Because as you fix the basics, you're now stable. You have base 70 stats or above. Now you can move on from just surviving every week to making some tangible progress in something you really want to. And this doesn't have to be your grand life purpose or anything. Because a lot of people, when they hear find your purpose, they get really paralyzed because what is my purpose? What should I do for the rest of my life? And here, that's not the point. But a quest here would be something that you find fulfilling, you find that this is something you want in this stage of your life. And there's a lot of things you can pick from here. Here's a list of things I would recommend you can look into. And if any of these resonate, I would really advise you just to dive more into this. It could be building a YouTube channel, learning a new skill, changing your career, making friends, finding a relationship, maybe even starting a business or getting into writing, photography, training for something new or moving somewhere new. Taking some kind of step where you become the kind of man your younger self would actually recognize. Something that gives your life direction again. And something that makes you feel like you're not just an NPC walking between work, your fridge, and your phone charger. And that quest might not give you much in the beginning, but most meaningful things look like that. It's the same with my YouTube channel. It's nothing huge at this point, but it is really meaningful for me to reflect over my own life experience and share that stuff with you guys. But keep in mind that this step 4 is step 4 for a reason. If you don't have your fundamentals in order, you'll never be able to sustain a YouTube channel or learn a new skill or make meaningful changes in career or make good friends or any of that kind of stuff. So your fundamentals is much more important. If you don't have those in order, you should look at those first before actually moving on to step 4. And if you're here, you're ready for step 5 because it actually ties into step 4. It's you need to start ugly. You gotta realize that if you start one of these quests, most of the time you're gonna suck in the beginning, like suck a lot. Your first workout, it's gonna look really awkward. You're gonna feel really self-conscious of people staring at you at the gym. Your first video most likely will get maybe 4 to 5 views. And your first attempt at going out there and making new friends, you might feel really overwhelmed and a bit weird about it. This is all normal. You're really not supposed to feel confident before you start, because you build confidence through competence by doing the thing over and over and over, gaining life experience and becoming better at it. And this is honestly one of life's most paralyzing mechanics, because you want confidence first to be ready, but life says, no, you gotta go embarrass yourself a little, then we'll talk. And honestly, that's actually fair, because the person who acts while uncertain becomes much stronger than the person who waits until they feel ready. And if you want to be that person, you have to try things eventually. You have to enter the grass and fight the trainer, send the message, apply for the job, post a video, go to the event, maybe walk into the gym, make the offer and have the conversation. I used to theorize so much when I was a teenager in my early 20s. I would never take the action. I would just watch endless videos and make this big risk assessment in my head, which would just mean that I never took the action. And when I finally took the action, I got some feedback, and I realized what I'd been doing wrong and what I could change and how I could improve. So just try something and see what happens, then adjust and try again. That's how you rebuild. If you made it so far, these are the 5 steps, but I want to touch on something very important, which is the feeling of regret. Should it fuel you, or should it be some kind of excuse? Because yes, maybe you wasted a bunch of time, maybe you should have actually started earlier, and maybe you ignored the advice that you've heard earlier. Congratulations, you're also human. We're a species that needs warning labels on shampoo bottles. You were never going to get everything right. The question is whether you use that regret as fuel or just another excuse at this point in time. Because that regret can become useful to you. It can become information, it can show you what matters, it can point directly at the part of your life that needs attention. But if you just sit in regret, it becomes another form of procrastination. Self-hatred can feel productive because it's so emotionally intense. But usually it doesn't do anything. You just sit there thinking, I'm behind, I'm cooked, I wasted everything, it's over. And your brain feels like it's actually doing something because there is drama. But what you really need is just action, like we've talked about. It's these small, boring actions that are repeatable that will actually help you get out of this feeling of regret. So what I want for you today is to have one win. Take anything from this video that resonated, whether it's just cleaning your room, signing up for a gym, doing the assessment, thinking in terms of which stats are your weakest. Just take some kind of action, because that's how you start your momentum and start changing your life. And you'll, in no time, have evidence that you can actually make a big difference in a short amount of time. And from here, the path is really you need to rebuild your self-trust. Maybe it wasn't even there in the first place, but you need to get to a point where you trust yourself, you trust the decisions you do, and you trust you can actually really make a big difference and have a better future than where you currently are. Because honestly, if you think the real tragedy is that you've wasted a bunch of time, that's not the real bad thing here. It's that you slowly stop believing in yourself. If you said you'd start going to the gym and you didn't, and if you said you start saving money and you didn't, they really just hurt your self-confidence and self-trust a lot. So I want you to get back to the point where you start fixing that by keeping the small promises you have to yourself, which is why this plan cannot be overwhelming. You have to take it in small steps. You cannot change your life overnight, but you can change a lot in 30 days and beyond. And as I mentioned, it is a boring thing. You need to do it again and again and again. And you just need to make sure that you don't quit this, because then you'll fall back to the stage that you are at right now. So remember this. It's all about the small actions and the foundations, and then you can actually start really thriving from there. And I will remind you that you will mess up. You will have bad days. Days where you even feel worse than you do now. You'll fall back into old patterns sometimes. And you'll have moments where your brain says, what if we simply become a gaming goblin again? That's fine. Your goal is not to never fall. The goal is just to stop turning every fall into digging yourself into a hole and into this lifestyle of just falling down and never really truly getting back up. So fall quickly, get up quickly, and return to the path quickly. And I want to leave you with this. In Pokemon, a bad save file is not always deleted. I went to a friend's house and we opened up his old Pokemon Sapphire file from, I think, 10 years ago, and his team was garbage, but we decided just to finish it anyway and actually beat the league. You can do the same thing with your life here. We didn't fix everything in one move. We swapped out some move sets, we decided what to go on the team, and then suddenly we had something competitive after grinding a bit for the Pokemon League. If this resonated with you, please comment down below which action you're going to be taking from this video, and have this as your public way of being accountable to the fact that you are now going to change your life. And if you want the next step, watch this video next on the worst decisions you can make in your 20s, because that breaks down the traps that quietly put people on the wrong path in the first place. And subscribe if you're trying to build a life your future self won't resent.